So have you ever wondered what is the difference between good and great? What's the difference between okay and excellent? I've been thinking a lot about this lately, Josh, on several different things. It seems like in my own life, my own journey, I often get to a point of comfort and, hey, I'm okay. I'm doing okay. I'm not falling apart or whatever. Right. But there's this breakthrough line that you kind of want to get to that turns the average into excellent, or turns the mediocre into superior, or whatever.
Or good to great.
Good to great.
Going with the classic book.
The classic book, who should be called Good to Gone, because almost every one of the businesses featured in there is now bankrupt or out of business or been purchased. But yeah, Jim Collins' classic work. But I want to talk about that today, and probably for our next several episodes, as it relates to spiritual formation. Spiritual formation is kind of our academic term, by the way, for discipleship. Discipleship can almost become cliche. Everybody talks about discipleship. Every church has discipleship pastors, discipleship programs, whatever. I like to use spiritual formation because it to me, it says this is a progressive journey we're on, and we are forming. We're advancing. We're hitting levels. We are getting deeper. For some reason, it communicates just a little bit more to me.
It's more specific. It's more clear. Like, I feel like discipleship kind of becomes a word like faith that we use a lot, but we might not really know what it means.
It gets almost caught up in what I call Christianese.
Yes,
where it's like our code language.
Exactly. Exactly.
So if you grew up evangelical, you understand what we mean, but you say
or do you?
Well,
it's the problem.
That's why we're talking about this. Actually.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So, and let me just kind of tell you a little bit. By the way, my name is Dan, and I'm one of the teaching pastors at Life Fellowship in suburban Charlotte, North Carolina. And I'm joined today with our co-host. Let me try that again. Easy for me to say. Our co-host, Josh Brahm, who is also the president of the Equal Rights Institute, and he is also the executive producer for this show. But we Life Talks. We all different kinds of topics. I mean, we just finished this series on shame with Mike Kozlinski. We did a series on help your boys to be masculine, your women to be your girls to be feminine, what that means from a biblical worldview. But this one is going to be a little deeper because it talks about our spiritual journey, our spiritual walk. And even people who are not Christ followers understand that there's a spiritual domain that we need to be aware of in our lives, and we need to be progressing. And I think addressing that is what, in some cases, leads to people finding a relationship with Jesus Christ, understanding the power of the gospel and the transformative work that comes with understanding absolute truth as God has given it to us. But, often what we talk about, and I'm going to get a little wonky, if I could. Because I'm an academic at my core. My degrees are in education. But when we talk about teaching, to be able to get to a point where we feel like we've completed the educational process, there are 3 steps. The first one is, what does the child need to know? All right, that's the cognitive area of development, and so we spend a lot of time with cognitive development. If you're teaching middle school kids, it may be dates, capitals of states, capitals of nations, where major rivers are, and geography. In math, it's the multiplication tables and addition and pi.
Reading, writing, arithmetic.
Right. In English and reading and writing, it's going to be the letters of the alphabet, the sounds, diphthongs, all of those things, and eventually sentence construction, parts of speech. If you don't have the core elements, you're never going to be able to become a novelist. You're never going to become a physicist. You're never going to become an astronaut. So those are essential things. But we also understand that we always go from the simple to the complex, and that is an essential part of spiritual discipleship. Another then is, so now that I have this knowledge, what good is it? And that is the doing part. So in cognitive development, the next stage is the psychomotor development. Now, often they're done simultaneously. For instance, the average child, by some estimates, and you can find all kinds of statistics, the old saying about statistics, but, somewhere between 3,500 and I think one number I saw was in the tens of thousands of new things being learned every day by a child in their first year of development.
Wow.
Things we take for granted, shape, spaces, colors, movements, and so forth. And so the child is just an absolute sponge from the moment they emerge from the womb. I mean, I've got a 8-week-old grandson. And every time I see him, which sometimes is a week or two between, even at the miracle of FaceTime and all that we use, but from absolutely no apparent awareness of people around him other than instinctual to recognition, smiling, engaging, interacting, those kind of things. In just a few weeks, their minds are just absorbing these kind of things. And then it has a psychomotor effect. They begin reaching for things. They caress mama's cheek.
Seeing their hands as their
they start examining that and realize that they are equipped for that. And then eventually they'll walk and they'll pull themselves up and they sit on their own. And we continue this all the way through and until they're catching passes down a football field, and all the things that a lot of people aspire for their children. So that's the psychomotor, and it is the doing and particularly in Western culture, particularly in American evangelicalism, this is a big deal for us because we are worker bees. We believe in the Protestant work ethic. We believe that work is, and I believe this, that work is an opportunity to glorify God. The Bible says, whatsoever your hand finds to do, do it with your might. The Great Commission is a proactive command that we should respond to by taking the gospel to all the world, teaching and baptizing. So that's a good thing. And often this is where we kind of stop. Yeah. We do this in the academic world because you can test this. There are objective truths. There are milestones. There are goals that we want to accomplish by a certain phase, by a certain point. Yeah. And when we do it, we can check it off. Okay, they know this or they can do this. Yeah. It's kind of like when someone takes physical therapy. You usually set objectives, set goals. Yeah. And when you get done with all your goals, then they release you. Yeah. Right? And then you can go back home or you can go back to your sport or whatever. But you have to reach these goals. There's a third domain, and this is where I'm going to really want to spend some time, and it won't be today, but it will be in the future, but I want you to listen to these other episodes as we march toward that. And that is, it's called the affective domain. If you've ever read Dorothy Sayers, who was a great classical educator, wrote a book, The Lost Tools of Learning. It's involving the trivium and rhetoric and the dialectic and so forth. But in the end, she mentions these pretty clearly. But it is the point. She also calls it the poetic stage. It's where we take what we know and we do what we can do. And some people are better at doing things than other people. Like, you're very musical. You're one of my favorite musicians. I've told you that before. I would aspire to be that way, but I don't have that natural gift and inclination. You do. So in that, it gives you creative ability that you can use. But first, you also have to know what you know, and you have to do what you do until you can create, until you can compose, and that poetic stage, improvise those things. Yeah. That's called the affective domain because that comes from your belief. That comes from being. That comes from something that's very mysterious. It's personal. It's private. And also, all of us have it to some degree, but a lot of us don't have the character, the inclination, or the skill set, or the motivation, or whatever it is, to take an idea, and cultivate it to fruition. Yeah. So if I had a nickel for every time somebody told me to stop to tell me about some book they were going to write, I would be on a beach mistake in the Caribbean.
People need to learn to not do that because psychologists have seen this. Like, you are so much less likely to write the book if you start telling people you're going to write the book because you're getting the fun feedback loop that you're supposed to get when you publish the book. Yeah, when you actually tell everybody.
Do it.
It's like tell one or two people and that's it.
And I'm guilty of that too. I mean, I've got several books that are in my hopper, so to speak.
I also am guilty of this.
Yes. Yeah. But you and I both know writing a book is hard work. Writing a song. Yeah. And I'm not talking about some little jingle you come up with in the shower or in the car, but I'm talking about actually, putting notes to music and developing the harmonies and the chord progressions and the various instruments that are going to play along with it. That's hard work. work. And it is a creative act, and it is also deeply personal.
Yes.
Because you want the reality of what you create to match the vision that's in your heart. That's the effective domain.
Yes.
It's a reflection of your beliefs.
Yes.
You know in your gut, in your heart. And that's where we often get off base because that is more subjective.
Yes.
You like a different style of music than I do. I'm assuming. I don't know.
Probably.
You're not a
There's
big...
probably some overlap.
Are you a bluegrass fan?
I like some. I've played in a bluegrass band before. Yeah, I played drums in a bluegrass band for a little while, but I'm not a huge bluegrass fan. It's fine. It's not. I wouldn't listen to it for like a long time.
Yeah, well, and the
blues
good thing,
I would listen to for a long time, but bluegrass I can be okay with
the
for a
good
while.
thing about me is 95% of the music, I like some of it. Now, there's a few genres that I'm just like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah.
But so I have enough appreciation and knowledge of enough that I'm dangerous, but I'm not an expert in any of it. But let's just, just the idea is there's diversity in our passions, there's diversity in our gifts, and there's diversity in our interests. So with that in mind, that's personal.
Yeah.
You have some control over what you feed, but in the end, there's just some things that you're just naturally good. I believe that's a gift from God, but that's another conversation. So let's review just real quickly.
Yeah.
So we have the cognitive.
Yep.
That's what we know. We have the psychomotor. That's what we do. And by the way, in the academic world, the cognitive is called Paul Parrot. And I always remember that by saying, it's not spelled the same way, but if you have a parrot, often its name is Polly, right? And what does a parrot do when they can talk? They
mimic.
They mimic. And that's often what we do when we're teaching this for children.
Yeah.
A says A as an apple. A says A. Or actually, if you're doing it correctly. And then you have the kids say it, and they say it back, and then we sing it to a song. Yeah. And so we're teaching them to mimic the facts.
We do this in seminars, too. We learned this from Justice for All, who is run by a guy who's also, like me, a big musician guy. And so, we think a lot about, we use the concepts of imitating versus improvising. So we'll start out by being like, if you don't nothing, we're going to give you some handholds. We're going to gonna give you a chance to hear how we would say it and give you some time to practice, kind of like reading it like a script, so you kind of get a sense of it. But what we want you to do is get to the point where you're not imitating us, but improvising. Because it's like God gave you a voice. We don't want you to sound like a bunch of me.
Yeah, so that's a perfect example then of moving from the cognitive to the affective, which is the improvisation and the creation and the uniqueness that makes the diversity of music and everything else so beautiful.
Yeah.
So and by the way, in terms of our physical development, this is often for a child, somewhere in the lower elementary, from birth to maybe 7 to maybe 8, 9, 10 years of age. Again, everybody develops a little differently, but so this is it's where you're learning your basic skills. Now, hopefully, we're all lifelong learners, but this is where you grab.
Definitely learned.
You learn. Well, that is true.
We should all try to be lifelong.
There are some people who are very committed to being lifelong idiots.
If you believe everything that your parents taught you and haven't changed any, it's a red flag.
Yeah, it is definitely. So, and then we move that psychomotor, which is the doing, and that is called the PERT age, by the way. This, to me, the peak of the PERT age is the middle school. This is why I love teaching middle school. And
why?
Because,
what is it?
Because it is a very engaging stage of learning. Oh, now that I know this, let me try it. I want to do this. And so the thing I loved about teaching middle schoolers is they always had their hands up.
Yeah.
Which was really bad because they had just hit puberty and hadn't discovered deodorant.
Right.
So, they're all flashing me their armpits right after PE class. Yeah. But they, Mr. Burrell. And they would ask me the questions and the exuberance was refreshing. And so this age, usually about from around 10, we'll just say, through about the age of 14, it's called the PERT age. And when I hear the word PERT, I think perky, but him, he's like, yeah, I'm engaged. I want to do it. Pick me. I want to lead. And this is a really great quality. And we see this in young Christians as well. Yeah. So someone who comes to know Christ, their first impression is, I've never known that. The Bible makes sense to me for the first time. I'm learning things I never learned in Sunday school. Yeah. It's like you see the little light bulb come on. Yeah. And then they're like, well, what do I do with this? Can I do this? Can we try that? I want to give my testimony. I want to share my story. I want to do this. I want to volunteer. And it's almost this natural progression that comes. And often what we do as we are journeying with someone in their spiritual formation is we see now they've become a good worker bee. They are now doing, they're reading their Bible, they're praying, they're going to church, they're volunteering, they're giving, they're doing these actions that we can check off. Got that. Therefore, they are now a mature Christian.
Yeah, we're good.
And
send them out.
That's it. Send them on out. Release
They'll be
them.
fine.
They'll be fine.
Yeah.
We throw them to the wolves is what we do.
Yeah.
Because there is this third area. And I will tell you that in my opinion, this may be the state of 95, maybe 99%, particularly of American Christians, but I think it's true around the world. And I will tell you, this is where I even feel at times like I'm still on the cusp of really breaking through to that. And that is that final area of being. That's what we call it, being. It is the affective area. It is a contemplative, meditative awareness of God in us and around us, whereupon our identity is not built on what we know. I love that because I want to be the smartest person in every room, right? I want to be the master of trivia and obscure facts so I can dazzle you with my intellect.
Or even just be helpful. Like, it's really helpful to be able to help people be logical.
That sounds far more noble.
Okay,
I know my heart. I'm just a,
fine.
And then there's the doer. We find value in what we accomplish.
Yes.
Again, you and I know each other well enough to know that this is us. We're looking in the mirror.
Thing.
Yep. I feel valuable. I feel influential. I feel like I'm important or significant if I'm doing something.
Right.
Yeah.
And probably like affecting people, a lot of people. We want to be helping a lot of people. So we're not typically going to be probably super happy in our own little closet for a long time.
Which to some extent that desire to help is that bridge across. I think that saying, this matters to me.
Yeah.
This isn't about the money. This isn't about all the things that motivate us with our knowledge. And this is why the spiritual domain is so sensitive, because it is to some extent mysterious. It is subjective.
Would that indicate that we are doing more than the psychoactive thing, but that the affective thing is happening because there's like an internalization thing that's happened and we've made it more personal, or is it not?
It is personalizing it, but it is not personalizing it to the extent that it is involving others.
Interesting.
But it's involving God. And that's it. So in other words, do we really know God?
Yeah, right.
And knowledge is this interesting thing because we use the word. It's a flat word in English. It's a very flat word because I know who the president is. I know who my governor is. I know, but have I ever met them? No, no. Do I even really want to meet them? No. Okay.
Right.
Do I know what their favorite food is? No. My knowledge is just recognition.
I think it's cheeseburgers for Trump. I think it's infamously cheeseburgers.
Yes, from what I've understood, fast food is well, of course, it's also one of my vices, I guess. But but then you ask me, how well do you know your spouse?
Yeah.
Well, I know my spouse pretty well. We're next Monday it's 41 years.
You'd hope by this point, right?
But quite honestly, do you ever know somebody fully?
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, I don't think my wife knows me fully. No. I don't think I know my wife fully. Yeah. There are great gaps. Even though we've been together 40 years, there were 20 years that we weren't together. Yeah. There's a lot that happens in those first 20 years. Yeah. So with that in mind, part of our journey is getting to know each other better. But do we really know God? Have we really taken the time? You see, and that's what happens in marriages a lot too. Marriages, what you do is you begin serving the children, making money, serving the man, the boss, And what happens over time is you neglect that intimacy of getting to know your spouse, and next thing you know, your roommates.
This is literally why I got this tattoo. This tattoo is a symbol. This is a phoenix.
Make sure everybody can see it.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to see.
Yeah, you want to see my tattoo?
Here, there you go. Kind of like that. It's a phoenix. My wife and I both have phoenixes. And it was just like a symbol of, look, stuff with our kids has always been really hard, extra hard. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if we continue to sort of like put the marriage as like the bottom of the priority list, and we've always got to be in crisis mode with the kids, then this is not going to have a good outcome. And so while I never thought I would ever have a tattoo, I hadn't been getting tattoos for a long time, but like I never planned on getting one. When she had this idea of like, I was like, I would love to have a physical reminder on my body all the time that I can't get away from. That's like the marriage needs to stay the priority. That is what this tattoo is.
Yeah, that's really a cool motivation, really cool symbol. Yeah. Because I mean, it is forever once you get it there.
It is.
I love that. Yeah. The idea, I guess, the notion of how do we get to know God is difficult. Yeah. It really is.
Yeah.
There are times when I feel like I get, me either. And you say, well, Dan, you've been a pastor for 30 some odd years.
I know. It's kind of embarrassing to say, right? Like, we're on a Christian podcast. It feels kind of hard for me to say, like, I'm definitely not. No, I'm not even close.
But, and I'm going to probably close with this story. There's several things I want to say that I think will make you want to listen to the next episode more. But I had a conversation about a year ago with somebody that I consider to be, and I'm going to be careful because I don't want you to know who it is, but they live in a very, there's 57 African countries. He is one of the top leaders in his country, and his country is one of the most advanced countries in Africa. Wow. And literally the head of it's not really a denomination, but an association of churches that numbers scores and scores of churches, tens of thousands of people attend. He's my age. And we were having a lunch that ended up being private, and he was talking about some of the dilemmas that he had been through, the depression, the difficulties, the self-worth problems, the overwhelming sense of frustration. And he looked at me and he said, Dan, I was ready to end my life. And I'm like, I'm sitting next to somebody who, to me, would be a hero of Christian leadership. Right. And he said, you know what it came down to? I just didn't know God. I was just a rat on a treadmill. And everybody thought I was successful. And I don't even know if God likes what I'm doing, let alone likes me. And his journey was to take a year off, disconnect completely, go away on his own. And he began reading some of the earliest church writers. One of them was a woman, an early Catholic nun that had, and in doing so, he said, I had a breakthrough. And he said the breakthrough was to the third level of discipleship that most people never get to. And that was being who I was in Christ. Not because I was doing something and not because I knew something, but because I got a little glimpse of how God sees me. And when I could understand that and accept that, it revolutionized how I saw God. Wow. And that's kind of where I want to head with this series, and we're going to be hitting it again next episode. I think the American church is best known sometimes for being a hub of busyness, but we're not a hub of being. I'll close with this. It's going to be a little crude, so just telling you up front. I was talking with someone who has just kind of broken through this recently. And they were talking about, I went away, I spent some time in praying, and this dawned on them as well. And this person had been in the ministry for many, many years. And he said, I was reading the story of Mary and Martha. And Martha was everywhere, cooking, cleaning, and she got frustrated with Mary. Mary's sitting at the feet of Jesus, wanting to get to know him better.
Don't like this story.
Well, you're really going to like this illustration, I think. And he said, for some reason, and this guy got saved in his 20s, but he said, for some reason, I had a sign that I'm going to have made, and I'm going to put it somewhere where only I can see it. But he said, Jesus said, as we have it recorded in Scripture, Mary has chosen the better thing, right? He said, I think if we put it in my vernacular, it would have been, Jesus said, Martha, set your ass down. Now, that's not a phrase that I would commonly use, and I'm using it as the sake of illustration. And you're not going to find that in my office next week. But I think that probably there have been many times in my life where God said, Dan, sit down and shut up and get to know me. And I have flat out doubled down on my busyness, doubled down on my study.
Me too.
And I did not pursue him. So that's where we're going to be, folks, as we continue this series on our next episode of Life Talks. Wow. I hope you'll tune back in. I hope you'll listen to this. We're going to talk systematically through the 3 stages. We may take a couple of episodes on the being one because I think that's where most of us live. We appreciate the fact you listen to us at Life Talks or you watch us on YouTube. We hope that you'll tell others about us. Please subscribe to us, will you? Whether it's on YouTube or whether it's on Apple iTunes or Spotify or wherever you hear us, if you would hit that subscribe button, we would really appreciate that. And always, if you have any questions or comments, or if you want some ideas, you want to share some ideas for what we could talk about in the future, please do that. And you can do that at lifetalks@lifecharlotte.com. But until next time, thanks as always for joining us here at Life Talks.